Yeah, that's one way to finish off the first episode. Definitely a different place to leave it at, but yeah, myself and many other would argue that a lot of isekai show have the same problem, the why isekai factor. And I really do believe that Parallel World Pharmacy is one of the few cases where at least it seems based on the first episode that what happened in his previous life is definitely going to affect him going forward, but this is my thoughts on the first episode of Parallel World Pharmacy, so let's jump right into it. Parallel World Pharmacy opens up with a guy in our modern times Japan. It gives us a sense that at some point in his past, he had a sister that had some sort of tumor, and they had no way of curing her, so she eventually passed away. Well, jump forward, he's now an adult, he became a pharmacist, and he's working day and night trying to find cures for people. It seems like whatever happened here with the fact that nobody had a cure for her kind of instilled upon him that he wants to make sure that nobody else has that problem. So he's working day and night, literally without sleep, until eventually it seems as if he dies of exhaustion. Well, scene change, and he is now in the body of a boy named Pharma de Medicis. It's actually more pronounced Pharma de Audicis, but yeah, Pharma de Medicis is the name of this boy that he ends up going inside of. It kind of gives a hint very quickly based on what the maid's saying is that he got struck by lightning, and after he woke up, he was now in that body. So it seems like Isekai threw lightning bolt into the child of this world. Seems to be the case here. Very quickly, they realize that he has these marks on both of his shoulders, which are the symbol of the god or goddess of pharmacy. Apparently, there is a deity of pharmacy in this world, and it seems like his family's really tied in with that particular side of things in this world, as his family is full of basically the leading people in pharmacy. His father is so knowledgeable that in this world, when you're like one of the best, you are given the title of Archduke. And so there's a lot of expectations placed on this body that he is now placed inside of, and that becomes something that instills fear upon the maid as she realizes, oh, he doesn't know anything about, he's lost his memory, and so he's not going to know all of his studies, he's not going to know how to use divine arts, which are all things that if you don't have, you'll get kicked out of the family. Like, there's an expectation placed upon you as a part of the nobles that you have high knowledge and high skills. You're blessed with the divine arts and you are the top of your class. But this is obviously not too much of a problem with him because he has this knowledge from his previous life. He does know how medicine works, even though a lot of the books that this body had studied are like old medicines, like past knowledge in medicine. And the divine magic isn't too much of a problem either because all he really has to do is kind of envision the spell itself, and all he does is really lay out the molecular structure of what he wants to create, and poof, it appears. I kind of joked about on Twitter that it played out kind of similar to Mushoku Tensei in that regard, but that's fine. It's just a joke. He ends up eating a meal with the family, and at this point he's supposed to be quizzed by his father, which he manages to get through. And additionally, following this, he goes and has his usual study session with his tutor. And the oddity that happens with his tutor is that she starts to teach him some divine arts again. She obviously, figures out that this boy has lost some memories. Like, something happened with that lightning strike. He's lost his memories about certain things. So she's going to help him by just kind of doing the basics again. And so they do this kind of water spear thing, and he goes up there with the wand and does the same thing, and this gigantic jet of water appears because obviously he's an overpowered main character. But this is where things get very interesting because this tutor, Ellen, she goes, that was a crazy amount of mana. We should try to test your mana capacity right now. So she gives him this thing that they call a divine meter or something like that, which tests your magic capabilities. And he holds it, and of course it breaks because obviously overpowered main character. But this terrifies Ellen. This is something that shouldn't be possible, and so she becomes very, very cautious of him. Something's not right about him. The capabilities and what he's doing is something only gods and demons basically have. So she's very kind of terrified and very cautious of him following this. Well, he manages to finally calm her down. They go back to the mansion, and two things really happen that just completely set this lady off. The first thing is that he's starting to kind of talk about how she could possibly see a little better if she puts her hands over her eyes like this, and she does that. And eventually he realizes by doing this, he somehow has some effect in his eye where he's able to see these points on her hands that are actually hurting. She says, yes, I jammed my finger. Well, he's able to see where there's some sort of medical problem in somebody just by doing this. And she says, that's the divine eye. Only the divine eye can do something like that. Humans aren't supposed to have that ability. And additionally, she sees that he has no shadow. So the culmination of the power, the eye, and the fact that he has no shadow, she freaks out and runs away. So yeah, that's kind of where we leave it. So yeah, my thoughts on Parallel World Pharmacy so far. This is an okay show. I like I said at the very beginning, I don't know how much of an extent they're going to do this, but I do appreciate the idea that there's a driving force. Now, we're talking about his childhood in the previous world. He lost his sister. That was his driving force for his entire adulthood. He died, and now it's, something that still sticks with him over here. And this is obviously something that's very traumatizing. The sister that he loved so much that just he couldn't help. Nobody could help. That's obviously something that's very traumatizing. And it seems like that's something that has basically drove him, and it seems like may possibly drive him in this new life. He now has a sister again, too, so that's kind of a wonder if something's going to happen to the sister immediately, and he's going to have to save her, and that's going to be that redemption he finally gets. And that's probably where I'm assuming it's going to go. Like, the moment that he probably saves this new sister, he's probably just going to forget about that trauma, and then it's all going to be about his new life. But it's still, he has a driving force. I do like that something in his previous life is the driving force for his new life. And it's obviously where he has most of his knowledge, and that's something that he can apply to this new world. Additionally, like I said, I really liked how this episode ended. We get so many isekai and overpowered main characters where the moment that they reveal that they're super overpowered, everybody just stands around and goes, Sugoi, Sugoi, Sugoi. Everybody just stands around, Sugoi. And then he meets new people, and then he's overpowered, and then they go, Sugoi, Sugoi, Sugoi. No, in this world, Ellen's terrified of him. Like, he is a monstrosity. Nothing should do this. And I do like that. I appreciate the idea of having a show for once where the character is overpowered and it makes no logical sense. This shouldn't be possible. You would have to be a god or some sort of monster to pull this off. So of course she's terrified. This is an abnormality. She's terrified of this, and she runs. And it was odd because even at the very beginning of the whole situation, she was trying to cover it up. Like, don't ever let anybody give you a divine meter. Don't ever show somebody else your capability, because she was kind of accepting of it at that point. She's like, not even your father. Don't let him see how much power you have. She was going to accept it, at least that part of him. It wasn't until the divine eye thing and the no shadow that she completely flips out, which I'm very curious as to what the deal is going to be with the shadow. Like, is he always going to never have a shadow? Is it somehow... It's obvious that he's touched by the divine. That he has a divine eye. He's got these markings of the divine. I like how he points out, she even notes the mark too, just like the maid did. And he's like, oh, that's just a burn mark that happens when the lightning burns the skin when it first hits you. And he's like, no, burn marks don't glow. It's like, please shut up. It doesn't glow. It's like this lady is like way more smarter than he is, and he doesn't realize it. But it's got a really decent setup. Now, I would say, I think the only downer for this episode, and it's probably going to be a struggle point for a lot of people coming into this show, this episode, a lot of it is exposition. Because he's coming into this new world, and it seems like it's trying to pour as much information into the viewer, or possibly the reader, as possible just to get the setup going. And so they spent way too much time in this first episode really trying to get us fully caught up on this world before it continues the story. And I kind of feel like should have piecemealed that stuff in over time so it wasn't as information dump, basically. Because most of it's like, literally the moment that he gets over there, one of the first statements he makes is, hey, can I clarify some stuff with you? And then boom, exposition jump. Yeah, we're doing this is the divine arts, this is your family, this is the pharmacy, this is the goddess, and this is the... It's like, whoa, chill. It's kind of similar to something like Faraway Paladin, but Faraway Paladin, it piecemealed it. Over time, it was giving you that information. I think this one just, it got way too into it, way too in the weeds. But like I was getting into earlier, I really do believe that he's going to be just divine in some way. And I think the people will see it as that way because he goes struck by lightning. Obviously, he has the marks. And I think that's going to make it to where, for some reason, he has no shadow. And I don't know how they're going to get around that, if they're just going to accept it and hide it, or if they're just going to... Because I do know that despite the fact that Ellen freaks out, like literally freaks out and runs away, she runs into random bushes and she has no glasses on, she's probably going to fall off a cliff. But I know that she's eventually going to accept him because she's literally in the key art, which, unfortunate spoilers for anybody watching the show, you see she's in the key art unless she gets possessed or something. I'm just curious how they'll go around to accepting that. All I can think of is it's probably going to be the sister. Like, I think the next storyline is going to be the sister getting sick and then him having to save the sister. But we'll see. I know that he's going to end up having to save somebody. and that will bring Ellen possibly back in. I will be curious to see how he manages to get around the issues with his knowledge. Because like I said earlier, he does have like this whole library full of books, and his previous self seems to have read it all, and he does seem to be tapping into some of those memories, but not really all of it, obviously, because he didn't know about divine arts and stuff. But yeah, it does seem like he does recall knowledge of those books. Now, maybe it's just faint because he didn't study it well enough, but I'll be curious how he offsets that, because obviously, like I said, everything up on that shelf is old knowledge. It's old medicine, where he has knowledge of modern time medicine. So I'll be curious to see how he balances that. Maybe he'll like slowly reveal, changes that will benefit people. Additionally, the other thing that I noted was that they went out of their way to show that he had the mark from his previous life. In his modern times previous life, he didn't have a notebook, so he wrote down this change that he made on this formula. Well, when he went to the other world, when he woke up, he looked at his wrist and he had the same markings there. It's the only thing that really, other than his knowledge, the only thing that came over with him was those markings. The same markings on his previous body onto the new body. The oddity in that situation is that, and this might be me overthinking it, it was flipped. It was mirrored. So to go out of its way to show that that was mirrored kind of makes me believe that something's going to apply there, that it's probably going to reflect on that somehow. My theory is going to be that whatever his knowledge of in his previous life has to be mirrored. So I'm thinking that any kind of formula for medicine or something like that is going to have to be flipped. And that's my assumption. He's going to go to try something, it's not going to work, and then he's going to realize, oh, that was flipped. So this world, for some reason, is parallel or mirrored and as opposed to the previous world that he was in. So that's my theory that I've been throwing around. But anyways, that's my thoughts on Parallel World Pharmacy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what's thought of this series if you're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you've not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support us more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. Definitely appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.